Shortest celebrity marriages of all time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Titanic. I'm your host, Alexa. I know that I do doesn't always mean forever, but in these cases, it meant less than a year. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.
Elizabeth Moss and Fred Armisen, 312 days. When it was announced that Moss and Armisen had wed in October 2009, it seemed like a perfect match, but just shy of their first anniversary, the two called it a day in September 2010. Moss explained years later, "Looking back, I feel like I was really young, and at the time, I didn't think I was that young at all." Jim Carrey and Lorne Holly, 309 days. This scenario has more swaps than I can keep up with. So, in 1993, Jim Carrey and his first wife, Melissa, were divorced. Almost right away, he announced his relationship with his Dumb and Dumber co-star, Holly. They were married in September 1996 and even had a group honeymoon vacation with friends. But in less than a year, it was over, and both were back in the dating game, as Holly had already found love with a new co-star, Edward Burns. And then it wasn't long before Carrey met Renee Zellweger, and they announced they were dating. Jennifer Lopez and Kris Judd, 218 days. In 2001, Kris Judd was a backup dancer on Jennifer's Love Don't Cost a Thing video when he met J-Lo. The same year, they were engaged and married, but just over 200 days later, the marriage was over. Throughout the relationship, the tabloids really made a meal out of the ups and downs. Their wedding was covered relentlessly, from trespassers being arrested for scaling mountains to see in, to having to rent the airspace above the venue for privacy. Elizabeth Taylor and Conrad Hilton, 205 days. At 18, Elizabeth Taylor tied the knot with Hotel Heir Hilton. This would be marriage 1 of 8 in her life. But according to Taylor, the marriage was over before the end of the 2-week European honeymoon. The divorce proceedings took a bit longer, and 205 days after I Do, it was finalized. Tom Green and Drew Barrymore, 163 days. This wasn't Barrymore's first short-lived nuptials, but soon after the first, she dabbled in the marriage pool again, this time with comedian Tom Green. They had dated for a year ahead of eloping, but in December 2001, they had already called it quits. Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger, 128 days. Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger held a beachside wedding in May 2005 with their closest friends and what must have been about 1 million press because the coverage of their special day was massive. However, just 4 months later, Zellweger filed for an annulment. She stated fraud, but then later released a statement saying this wasn't a reflection on Kenny's character, so we're just as confused as you are. Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Esposito, 122 days. The sweetheart of NCIS, Jennifer Esposito tied the knot with Bradley Cooper in a small ceremony in the south of France in December 2006. Skip forward to May 2007, and Esposito stated irreconcilable differences when she filed for divorce. It seems like it was a mutual decision, though, as in a later interview, Cooper admitted it was just something that happened. The good thing is, we both realized it. Colin, Farrell, and Amelia Warner, 121 days. Diamonds are said to be forever, but tattoos, well, in this case, they aren't legally binding. In July 2001, Colin Farrell and Amelia Warner wed in a romantic ceremony in Tahiti. Farrell traded a gold band for ink and got Warner's name tattooed on his ring finger. However, they broke up 4 months later. Warner explained it wasn't a legally binding marriage, but it certainly left a mark on Farrell. Nicolas Cage and Lisa Marie Presley, 107 days. Nicolas Cage receives a double-header on the list, perhaps a serial groom. Nicolas Cage has said "I do" 4 times. In August 2002, he married Elvis Presley's only child, Lisa Marie. But before the honeymoon phase was even over, they filed for divorce in November. Believe it or not, this wasn't the shortest of Cage's marriages. He was once married to Erica Koike for 4 days. Forget the shotgun wedding, this was rapid fire, and it all went down in the capital of convenient marriage licenses, Las Vegas. Nikki, Hilton, and Todd, Andrew Meister, 85 days. I think when your wedding takes place at 2:30 in the morning, you can probably be sure it wasn't a pre-planned affair. While they were able to summon family and friends to the occasion with Paris Hilton as bridesmaid and Jeff Beacher as best man, it was clear not everyone was aware it wasn't the real thing. It was a beautiful, small wedding with an amazing energy, Beacher said to People just days after they tied the knot. The two of them are very much in love. Not just was the wedding a quickie, as they had the marriage annulled before the 3-month mark. Kris Humphries and Kim Kardashian, 72 days. Kim Kardashian and Kris Humphries' wedding was probably the second most broadcast wedding after the British royals. The wedding was part of the TV series called Kim's Fairy Tale Wedding, a Kardashian event, which was watched by millions of adoring fans. But after the over-the-top August 2011 wedding, just 72 days after marriage, Kim filed for divorce. Drew Barrymore and Jeremy Thomas, 39 days. At 19, Drew Barrymore married 31-year-old Los Angeles bar owner Jeremy Thomas.
It was March of 1994 at 5:30 in the morning. They'd called a 24-hour minister who charged $20 extra because of the short notice, and a pit bull served as best man. What could go wrong?
Mario Lopez and Ali Landry, 18 days. In April 2004, after already dating for 6 years, Mario Lopez and Ali Landry got married. Only 2 weeks later, they filed for divorce. But in hindsight, Lopez says he shouldn't have walked down the aisle in the first place. During the bachelor party, he admitted he had already cheated on Landry. When he told all in his 2014 book, Mario admitted he had cheated on Landry during the bachelor party. 5. Eddie Murphy and Tracey Edmonds, 14 days. On a private island off Bora Bora, Eddie Murphy and Tracey Edmonds wed in holy matrimony on New Year's Day. But it seems that was the only honeymoon moment in the couple's 14-day marriage, as it was reported their partnership hit the skids right away. Luckily, they were spared the legal bills, as the marriage was more of a symbolic union and not recognized as a legally binding contract in the US. Carmen, Electra, and Dennis Rodman, 9 days. What happens in Vegas certainly didn't stay in Vegas for Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman when in November 1998 they came home with more than a hangover. The actress and NBA star went on a bender in Las Vegas and ended up at a white chapel, and 9 days later Electra filed for an annulment. It didn't happen overnight, unlike their wedding, and the divorce was finalized roughly a year later. 9 days seems to be the charm, and here's another 9-day wonder. Cher and Greg Allman. Lucky for Cher, she doesn't have to worry about changing her last name because with her nuptial back and forth, it would have looked like witness relocation. Immediately after her divorce from Sonny went through, Cher married Allman in Las Vegas in 1975. But no sooner had the ink dried than Cher was backing out of the marriage. Dennis Hopper and Michelle Phillips, 8 days. Hopper was another actor who married 5 times. One such union was with Michelle Phillips, who he married on Halloween 1970. The marriage lasted only 8 days as they divorced on November 8th. In an interview, Hopper joked 7 of those days were pretty good. The 8th day was the bad one.
Alright, those are a ton of celebrity marriages so far, and we still have the shortest one to go. But before we get there, I kind of want to ask you guys, if you could marry any celebrity, which one would it be? Let me know in the comments down below.
1. Britney Spears and Jason Alexander, 55 hours. Cold feet generally come just before the wedding, but in this case, they were just after. It seems the appeal for a Vegas wedding is too great for people to refuse. Britney and her childhood friend, Jason Alexander, were overcome by this urge as they headed for the Little White Chapel in the early hours of January 3rd, 2004. Luckily, Britney's people took care of it, and a mere 55 hours later, the shortest recorded marriage was over.